Oh, hey, what's up, guys? I don't usually do this type of video with me just talking, but here I am, and this video was inspired by another YouTuber, which we'll get into in a second, but the video title is Tower Fantasy versus Genshin doesn't make much sense, or the other way around, Genshin versus Tower Fantasy doesn't make much sense. And you might be thinking, what doesn't make sense about it? Well, that's a great question. We'll get into it. So after watching, this video was inspired, obviously, by another YouTuber, and before I watched this video, I thought that the two games were comparable. The two games, rather, are extremely similar in a lot of factors. Obviously, movement around an open world, climbing, jumping, fighting, switching between certain things. They're very similar on the surface level. And before I watched this video, I was like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna make it, and eventually I'm gonna make a Genshin versus Tower Fantasy series, much like I have with Genshin versus Honkai. I made a series about that, and I thought the same thing with Tower Fantasy. I'll do it and compare the two things. After watching this video right here, Mr Tectone's video, Tectone Maximonius, I watched this video and it kind of changed my thought on this, and I was like, actually that he has a few points here. And I've soon since reconsidered my Tower Fantasy versus Genshin series, because the two it doesn't make sense to compare them. Like the video says, it doesn't make sense. The two games are fundamentally different games. One is a single player game. Like, fundamentally, you can't argue that Genshin's multiplayer. You just can't. The game is not multiplayer. The multiplayer sucks, first of all. And then second of all, you don't ever need the multiplayer. You are never in need of the multiplayer. So, Genshin, the single player game, completely single player, versus Tower Fantasy, the fundamentally multiplayer MMORPG game. It's just what they are. And comparing them doesn't feel right because the logistics behind both games is completely different. Genshin Impact can focus on making such a immaculate world. It's just a remarkably immaculate world that the single player experience is so fundamentally just fucking amazing. Just mwah, chef's fucking kiss. It can do that. Whilst Tower Fantasy, it can do that if it wanted to, but if it did, everyone that's loading in would be fucking struggling if they made such an immaculate world. So they have to sacrifice the world and a lot of other things, to be quite frank with you, to, make it so a lot of players can load into that world and play it. Tower Fantasy has to accommodate for, I believe, 50 to 100 different players. I could be wrong on that. I don't know their server size. I don't think they've actually ever released that, which is kind of weird. Maybe release that. Tower Fantasy would be kind of handy to have. But yeah, they have to accommodate for a lot of players logging in, a lot of players interacting with each other, a lot of players doing different things, and a lot of players just being on one server, whilst Genshin doesn't have to do that. And so comparing them in that regard is not fair. It's just not fair. Tower Fantasy will plummet in terms of quality. And the same thing with a lot of things. The server stuff just takes a toll on the rest of the game. Combat's going to be worse because of servers. Exploration's going to be worse because of servers. Everything's just kind of deteriorate because of the servers, because obviously a lot of players loading in is going to fucking tank everything. It's it's how MMOs work. MMOs are fundamentally built upon your servers being immaculate. There's a reason why World of Warcraft is rather well made, is because its servers, it's got really good servers, I'll be honest with you. As much as I don't play the game anymore, World of Warcraft has pretty great servers. But that's why the games aren't comparable. And obviously you can look at the combat and the switching mechanics and all this different stuff and be like, oh, you could compare it here and there. But, comparing small, eensy-beensy aspects of the games is just kind of not fair in my opinion. And if you've been a fan of my channel for a while now, you've probably seen the fact that I do a Honkai versus Genshin series on the channel. I've done 8 or so episodes of it where I compare, core aspects of game design with the two games. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, wait just a moment. That doesn't make much sense. You're now saying that Tower Fantasy and Genshin can't be compared, but then you're going to compare Genshin and Honkai? Yes, I am. I will do that. And here's why. They're made by the same company. And that's going to be my excuse. It wasn't my initial reason, but I'm going to use that as an excuse. They're made by the same company. And you would hope that, in terms of quality of systems, there would be some sort of similarity, but there isn't. And that's why I did the Honkai versus Genshin series, is because I wanted to see how one company, I know it's a different dev team. I do know that it is a different dev team by all means, not the same people, but it is the same company. So cross-referencing is a possibility. but I wanted to see how different dev teams of the same company make such vastly different games in terms of experience, gameplay, systems, generosity, in interest, kind of like speed, quality of life. I just want to see how these two games, and so that's why the Genshin versus Honkai series exists. But I don't think the Genshin versus Tower of Fantasy series will exist because I just don't think it's quite fair. With that said, though, I do think Genshin and Tower of Fantasy are both great games. Genshin obviously a bit lacking. I know I'm making this video like a few days before Sumeru's release. Genshin definitely is lacking a lot of things, and Sumeru might fix that. Probably not. Let's be real. You know, what's that saying? First time's chance, second time coincidence, third time a pattern. Genshin's kind of at like 17th time is just, it's not changing. So will Sumeru save it? You know, you'll maybe get a few hours out of gameplay, and I will be playing the game on launch, on the hour of the launch. If you want to watch me on this channel right here on YouTube, by all means, come and hang out. You're going to play the game. Roll for Tignari, a lot of gems saved up. Free to play, obviously. Yeah, Sumeru, terrible, and Tower of Fantasy right now, it's a new game, right? Tower of Fantasy is a brand spanking new game, and that's why I'm playing a lot more. I haven't streamed Genshin in like a hot 2 weeks or so, because Tower of Fantasy just like, you know, it's a brand new game. It's just brand new. So it's fun. It's really fun. Obviously, the jank is there, but it's super fun. So, with that, I'm not going to compare the two series. It's not fair. I am enjoying Tower of Fantasy a lot. Tower of Fantasy feels like a great game. They obviously have to refine a lot of things. They have to. If they don't, the game's going to die and be beaten by a few of the other ones coming out soon. Wuthering Waves already has a lot of like very interesting and cool looking gameplay to it, as well as one that actually competes with Tower of Fantasy, which is Blue Protocol, which a lot of people are excited about, which is one made by Bandai Namco, MMORPG, anime styled. So it's competing with those things, and if Tower of Fantasy doesn't refine itself a lot more, servers, gameplay, general kind of goodness, if it doesn't do that, Blue Protocol will just sweep it under the rug, and Blue Protocol will take the cake, because Blue Protocol already seems to have that MMORPG formula in place. So yeah, that's this video. You know, I'm going to play about a 20-second outro here just to get that 8-minute mark for YouTube monetization. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks. Subscribe, like the video, whatever. Do whatever the fuck you want with the video. Don't really care. Actually, I do care. Subscribe. Sub.